Hello people. It's always worse in your head. All the stuff that you're worrying about, all the anxiety that you have. It's a choice. It's a choice. I know that loads of people like drama. I've seen it, and I will confess, I have been one of them. But it's really interesting. I started working with this really fantastic therapist, and one of the really nice things is actually in person. It's not online, and I don't have anything against online, but as much stuff as you can do physically, in the actual surroundings, I just think there's a better rapport, there's more of a connection there, and there are so many things that you can worry about, things that you would rather have said in a particular situation, things that you might rather not have done, but it's all done. It's a really obvious thing. And in my recent therapy session, one of the things that came up was actually the language that I use towards myself. And a key component of that is a sort of desperation, kind of ordering myself about. Oh, I must learn to like myself more. Oh, I need to value myself more. And it's like, oh, okay. We have the ability to do many things, including terrifying ourselves, It doesn't come from anybody else. It doesn't come from anybody else. It all comes from up here, what you're thinking, what you're believing, what you're feeling, and how reactive or responsive you are. And I recorded a video recently about a little conflagration with the neighbour that I share my garage with. And obviously, when something like that happens, it affects us, and it will affect some of us more than other people. I actually have had great difficulty in letting things go. I realise this, and it's a failing, because it gets in the way of all of the other great stuff that I'm actually doing in my life. But when you actually face all of the things that you're really worried about, what you realise actually is that you're far more resilient and capable than you do actually give yourself credit for. So one of the lovely outcomes from most recent therapy session was, rather than saying, oh, I must like myself more, I have to value myself more, well, try this. Start asking questions. What would it look like to like myself more? What would it be like to value myself more? And then you're asking questions rather than imposing orders on yourself, because believe me, there are many, 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 many people in the world, in your life, that will want to place demands on you, will want you to behave in a particular way, or at least they'll say that they do, and they'll behave in a way that makes it clear that it's either my way or the highway. You have to learn to stand strong. And what I've actually found to really help me is to realise that you may think that you're looking at grown-ups, adults, people in their 30s or their 50s or their 80s. But what you actually realise is that when people don't get their way, they revert to their true nature, what they really want to say and do. And you realise that most people haven't really progressed much beyond the ages of adolescence, of being teenagers. You'll find that people will get very irate, and they'll start shouting and demanding at you. But it's very, very important to realise that just because the wind is howling doesn't mean that you have to topple. Very, very important to remember that, my favourite phrase, it is your life. It is your life. Constantly remind yourself of the fact until you get bored of thinking, oh, right, okay, so it's my life. I don't need to ask permission to live my life. That's God granted. That's a birthright to be able to live your own life. And never, ever let anybody, by their behaviour, fool you or gaslight you into believing that you have to bend to the wills of other people. Because I've made that mistake. Fuck me, Jesus Christ, I've made that mistake. I really have. And I'm starting to realize now that a lot of the stuff that I have occupied my mind with, and I'll be honest, my heart, it's been pointless, and it's not been necessary. It absolutely has not been necessary at all, to advance my own life, to make me feel better about myself and to get more done, frankly. So each time something, like events like that, because I'm a very sensitive person, and I don't mind that. I'm not saying that in a mea culpa kind of way. I am, and I would rather be tilting towards the scale of more sensitive rather than really cold and detached. And it's definitely being sensitive is the lesser of two evils. But finding your way through by being calm, collected, realizing that you can deal with any situation if you choose to, that makes life really powerful. And it makes, when things inevitably arise, makes them easier to deal with. So, as my very wise mother once told me, lose your mind and come to your senses. Start to live in the real world and realize that it's a much more beautiful, much better place in which you can do really fantastic work.